And welcome to this morning's sunrise drive here in the Sabi Sands, South Africa. We're on Nkuhuma Private Game Reserve, and we've got off to an incredible start. Would you believe it? We actually heard these lions calling this morning as we dropped off all the crew in the final control room this morning, and it didn't take us long to find them. So very happy and lucky, I guess, to start off after having a few days leave to come back to such a beautiful site like this. So very happy to see the Nkuhuma Pride of Lion, which are 8 lion. We can only see 6 in the current shots in the background, but Andrew, who's on camera this morning, will now show you one of the other individuals. He's kindly getting up now and moving into view. But it looks like it's going to have a quick stretch before then, and it decided to lie down. And then, as I was saying, there's 6 members basically directly ahead of us. And then 1 female who looks like one of the adult lioness within this pride, lying up a little bit away from the rest of the pride. And they haven't moved very far from where they were found yesterday afternoon with Mark at Twin Dams. Here we are, like I said, very close to the final control room and just behind or just south of the Vuyatela Dam. So sadly, they didn't pop into the view of the waterhole camera last night, I don't think, but they were very close, and at some stage today may head down to the waterhole for a drink. But at the moment, as you can see, they are all very relaxed, and I'm told that they had been feeding on a buffalo sometime yesterday or the day before, so they are still fairly full-bellied from a large meal, and when they are full-bellied they are less inclined to move huge distances in search of food, and that's why they haven't moved too far in the course of last night. And Nikki and Tara are in the final control room this morning. And like I said, Andrew's on camera. It's always so wonderful getting back to the bush after having a few days away. And it's been interesting to note the fairly significant changes in the vegetation after the 2 downpours of rain that we've had in the last week. And there's already a kiss of green, especially on these open grassy areas that we're starting to notice. So it's good news for the herbivores, as they're going to have a little bit of extra food. It was very dry before we did get these last 2 downpours of rain. Well, as you can see, they do have their heads up and are listening a lot to the sounds around them. We've had zebra calling nearby in the quarantine clearings that got their attention. And I also heard the hyena den site. Well, I'm fairly certain it is the hyena den site, but certainly hyena calling in that direction. So it might be worth us heading across there at some stage. But certainly worth spending a bit more time with these lion. There's 2 more vehicles arriving into the sighting at the moment. And it's a crisp, cool morning. It's 16 degrees Celsius or 61 degrees Fahrenheit with a humidity of 86%. Very pleasant morning to be out, and you would have noticed we've got 8/8 cloud cover, so it's a cloudy day, but we'll see how long that lasts. It can often change as the sun comes out. It may burn off these clouds. And now that you can see 1 lioness up and moving, you'll notice that she does have a full belly. And like I said, it's believed to be a buffalo that they had last fed on. Mark told me that there was a hyena seen coming out of the area where they were eventually found with a hyena, with a buffalo's leg. Morning, Texan, go ahead. Negative, I haven't seen them. Just the Nkuhumas that I've noticed. So Texan, one of the other guides, asked if there were any of the large males from the Matumba coalition in this area, and I was just letting him know that I hadn't seen them. What is this lioness so interested in up ahead there? She does seem to be...
There's a bird on the floor.
Oh, is it a bird? She could be stalking a... Oh, it's just that Birchall's starling, it looks like. And they can be very playful. And even though it's got a very small chance of catching that bird, it appears like it is going to possibly try. So let's watch closely. Any small movement will trigger their natural instinct to chase prey down, even if it is the smallest of animals. And in the past I've seen lion even being intrigued by small animals like mongoose and tortoises, but this one now has decided against the initial plan to chase down that little starling. I've just got a message through from the final control mentioning that there have been a lot of the viewers welcoming me back, and thank you very much for your warm welcomes. It is so great to be back here, and just after a few days away in the city. What to do this morning? Like I said, they are still quite full-bellied, and we are not expecting too much action from them. However, if some buffalo head into this area, they could well show some interest in taking them down. And it was just a few weeks ago that the same pride of lion was found in the same area, and Brent sat with them for about 2 hours, and they did absolutely nothing really in those 2 hours, but eventually some buffalo arrived onto the scene, and then we were treated to an incredible sighting of them sneaking up on the buffalo and eventually essentially being taught a lesson by the buffalo, as they are very hard animals to bring down, especially during the daylight hours when the lion lacked the cover of darkness. But that could happen a little bit later on. It usually, well, the buffalo usually arrive at the waterhole a little bit later on in the morning once it's heated up, and on a cool day like today, I'm not sure if they're going to be arriving anytime soon. So I think it might be worth us heading off in a little while and seeing what the hyenas are up to, because like I said, I did hear some audio coming from the area of their den site, and they might be a little bit more active than these lion. Now, for any of you who may be joining for the first time, welcome on board, and just to let you know, you can ask questions at any stage, and to do that you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Andrew's just spotted an African harrier hawk flying past.
I think there were two of them.
Were there two? There could well have been. I only saw the one. And quite interesting that a bird of prey has got up so early in the morning. They often wait until the ground is heated up and hot air thermals rise up off the earth, making it easier for them to fly. But that one's obviously hungry and wanting to start its morning foraging a little bit earlier than normal. It's wonderful to have some lion back on the property. Before I left last week, Friday, we had been only treated to a few glimpses of the lion as they cross through corners of our property, but now we've got this pride right in the heart of Nkuhuma, which makes for great prospects, at least for today and this afternoon's drive. And it really is interesting to note the changes in their behavior depending, well, especially in where they move and how their territories not vary, but the time that they spend in various parts of their territory varies. And there's two main contributing factors that will cause them to move differently through their territory. One is the presence of other lion in the area. And another very important factor is food. And it appears like there's a lot of buffalo further to the north. Large, this pride of lion, but other prides of lion as well. And I think that's why they did spend a fair amount of time away from us over the last few weeks. Very happy to have them back though. It's always interesting to note how they move around when they are not highly active like this, and what causes these small movements of them. There's no real change in temperature, which is often a reason why they will move into shadier spots, but there's still, every now and then one will get up and move a few meters. And as much as we watch them and try and learn and understand what causes their behavior, a lot of our questions will remain unanswered and only they will know the answer to, which also keeps things interesting for us out here, because as much as we may think we get to know these animals, they always surprise us with their movements. Andrew Bridget chose a very good time to pan across to that lioness, and she
Super lucky.
just performed a small yawn for us. She looks like one of the adult lioness within the pride, and it's two older lioness with 3 sub-adults and two smaller cubs, and then the one a 3-year-old male. He's probably there and thereabout now, that make up this pride. They're a formidable pride, 8 lions in total, of which 6 will be able to contribute to the hunting. The 2 smaller cubs are not quite there yet. And they do have the ability to take down buffalo, and if you use that as a measure to gauge how good lions are at hunting, it's the ultimate test where the lion can bring down buffalo. They're a very formidable adversary that can cause a lot of damage to lion, using their horns to throw them away if they get too close to them. And for those of you who were watching this pride of lion attempt to hunt buffalo last time we were here at WildEarth Dam with myself and Brent, you would have got to see the buffalo really making a fool of the lion, and it does go like that sometimes. We've just got a question through from Lucky One on Twitter. Good morning, Lucky One, and welcome on board with us. Lucky One is interested to know how many adults there are in this pride, and there's 2 mature lioness with 3 slightly younger sub-adults, 2 even smaller cubs that are just on a year of age, and then one young male who's around 3 years of age now. So a mixed batch of ages within the pride, as there often will be in prides, and I'm just going to take this opportunity to reposition. It looks like they are going to all start moving. I just want to make sure we're in a good spot for that. We could, if we are lucky, get to see them playing. When they do move around, if the whole pride does get up now, it may induce a little bit of playful activity amongst them. So that's something we can hope for now. Just got a question through from Ellen in Illinois. Good morning, Ellen. Ellen is interested to know whether the lions and wild dog will get thicker coats during the winter and whether they'll shed their fur during the summer. And there's certainly maybe small differences, but it's not noticeable to us. well, I certainly haven't noticed any considerable changes in their fur relative to the summer and the winter. But there may be a very small change that is not noticeable to us. It is a very good question though, Ellen, because the temperatures vary greatly from summer to winter, and I certainly wouldn't want to be walking around out here without a lot of warm clothing during the winter. It can be crispy cold evenings. We've just got a question through from Laura in Indiana. Good morning, Laura. Laura's interested to know whether these lions have TB, and if they do, how it affects them. And most of the lion in this area will be infected with tuberculosis, and they get this from the buffalo that they feed on. And it will affect them, but usually only in times of difficulty. So you may notice that young cubs within prides will have small protrusions or kind of growths on their elbows, and it's more noticeable on them than the adults because they are often the ones that get less food than the adults. So it's an example of how when it is not the most favorable conditions for lions, their symptoms of TB will show, and occasionally if prides are unlucky enough, it can really affect them negatively when they are going through a tough spell of hunting. But at the moment this pride all seem very healthy, and thankfully the TB that they do have is not affecting them greatly. The birds are really beginning to wake up now, and Andrew just a few moments ago panned across to a magpie shrike, and that's one of the birds you can hear calling now. But there's also starlings and francolins that are adding to the morning chorus. Just got another question through from Eileen, and to all of you who are sending questions through, thank you very much. Eileen is asking whether it's typical for a pride of lions just to have one male in it, like this pride does. And no, that's not necessarily the case, Eileen. Actually, in this case, it's interesting because he's not the dominant male, even though he is fairly sizable. He's one of the sons of the lioness that we are watching. And in the coming months, I'm fairly certain he is going to be kicked out of this area by his fathers. They've accepted him within their territory because he is young. But you may have noticed that on the opening shot he did actually try and mount one of the other lioness, which was possibly his mother. So he is becoming more sexually active, or sexually interested at least. And this won't be tolerated by his fathers for obvious reasons, because it wouldn't do any good for the gene pool for him to be mating with any of his family. And that is how nature naturally ensures that males will move out far away from their family pride before they become sexually active. And more often than not, it's the prides of lioness that occur together. Oh, look at this. This is what I was hoping for a little bit earlier. But as I was saying, Eileen, it's usually the females that band together and create prides of lioness, and the males will also often band together with brothers and form coalitions of males. And depending on how big the coalition of males may be, they may acquire a territory which is very large and have 3 or 4 or possibly even 5 prides of lioness within their big territory. So the males will compete with males for territory, the females will compete with other prides of females for their territory, and if a coalition of males is lucky enough to acquire a big territory with lots of prides of lioness, they won't necessarily stay with the lioness. It's more important for them to move around and make sure that no other males are trespassing on their turf. And to be able to make sure that there are no trespassers, it means that they can't just stay with one pride of lion, and will move around a lot, stopping in with the ladies when either they're in season or when there's food around. If there's no food or no mating opportunities, the males would rather be elsewhere. And it's typically 2 males that we see with this pride. 2 big males from the Matimba coalition, who was initially a coalition of 4. Now there's one lion that's seen something. It's one of the youngsters, but let's have a closer look and see what it is that's got its attention. It's very thick in the direction they're looking in, so I can't see anything at this stage. But judging by all the other lions' body language, it may not be something very interesting. Although that looks like it could be an adult now that's showing a little bit more initiative and intent. What could it be that they've seen? There's very good cover for them to stalk here, and they are heading onto the fringe of a thicket, which will provide them, like I say, with great cover. And let's see what it is that's coming their way. The squirrels just caught the message that there's some lion here, and that's the noise you can hear in the background. It's a tree squirrel alarm calling. Well, that's not going to help their hunting, because whatever it is that is approaching this open clearing is now going to have heard the squirrels alarming and be on extra high alert. Now, we can't see too much from here, but I am confident that we could get into a position where we can see a little bit better without interfering on what's going on here. So bear with me for a second. We'll just keep a very wide berth, and like I say, make sure we don't impact on whatever is about to happen here. But I would like to get us into a position where at least we can see what's going on. body language seems to have decreased in purpose, but they are still listening and looking into the vegetation up ahead. I wonder what it is that could be moving through there. But as Andrew is showing us now, it's thick and very difficult to see. Again, a good example of how much better their senses are than ours. Even in this thick vegetation, they can often sense animals coming, and it would be their hearing, I'm sure, that alerted them to this potential prey, not necessarily their sight. The wind is blowing from the lion towards us, so it's in their favor for now. And possibly they could have smelt something. And like I said a few moments ago, it can be that when you're sitting watching lions sleeping, that something interesting stumbles upon them, and then all of a sudden you've got yourself an incredible sighting. So they may not necessarily be actively hunting, but an opportunity might present itself to them. And that's why it's often difficult to leave sightings like this, because you know by hanging around you, anything could arrive in this general area. There is a waterhole very close to us, and as it does become dry as we go into winter, a lot of animals will frequent the waterholes, and the lions certainly know this. And maybe that's why they decided to yesterday spend their whole day based at Twin Dams, and now today it appears that they'll be at Vuyatela Dam. Just got a question through from Rena on Twitter. Good morning, Rena. Rena would like to know, how much longer will it take before the sub-adult male in this pride gets kicked out? And it's difficult to say, Rena, because the personalities and relationships with their fathers will all vary between lions and their male cubs. But anywhere from the age where he's at now, he could expect to start getting some pressure to move out. I'm actually quite surprised that he hasn't started getting more pressure. He is at an age where he is becoming more sexually active and beginning to explore mating even with its mothers and sisters. So it's showing all the signs that it's not going to be accepted or tolerated much longer. But only time will tell, and won't it be interesting to see that event unfold? It is incredible how harsh nature can be, because his fathers would be loving and caring only up to a point where they'll turn completely on him and then chase him away. But it's a necessity out here, and it'll be far more useful for the greater good of all lion for him to head off and spread his genetics in a different area, and not with either his mothers or his sisters. So it's nature's way of just ensuring that there's genetic diversity between the different prides of lion. The tricky thing for this individual is that he's got no brothers, and if he did have brothers, they would all be kicked out together, and that way at least have some safety in numbers as they go out on their way. But he will be all alone, which makes for obviously much harder hunting, and not only hunting alone, but also you'll have to defend himself against other dominant males that he comes across in the coming years. You'll often find young male lion that are either alone or in small coalitions, but inexperienced, you could say, will fly below the radar and slink through territories of larger males without vocalizing, without scent marking, trying as best as they can to be undetected, and that way avoid any trouble. Well, now I think what we should do is possibly head off and see what else is going on. It's always a difficult decision to make, because just like we saw their body language earlier certainly indicated that there was something potential prey moving in the general area, and if they did come close enough to the lion, we would be able to see the lions chase whatever it was that it may be that they're interested in hunting. But in the same breath, there's no guarantee that anything is going to come. So I am leaning towards heading off and seeing what else is out there. There's great prospects to potentially come back here later if we hear any radio updates of buffalo moving into the area. And certainly this afternoon's drive is going to provide some good opportunities to view these lions. So it might be most worthwhile for us to head off and go and look for something else and make the most of all the other animals and exciting opportunities that there are out here for us to enjoy. I think the lion have been a great start, but I'm interested to head over to the hyena den site and see what's going on, because all the lion now are fast asleep.